on a All right. Hi, I'm Elaine Brewster, and this is Aspects of Energy. This series is devoted to natural ways we can raise our energy. Please remember to mute. It's down on the left bottom. And if you have a question, write it in the chat. That's down in the bottom in the middle. I've written mine and Randy's contact information at the top of the chat. Well, today we are very privileged to have multi-talented Randy Rolfe. She married her high school sweetheart, and they've been married for 51 years. Her first career was as the first female lawyer ever hired by a top Philadelphia law firm. And after a few years, she left law to focus on her family and became a certified in applied clinical nutrition. She earned a master's degree in theology and founded the Institute for Creative Solutions, where she counsels family, teaches courses on parenting, nutrition, and good communication. She's published many books, with one being launched soon. Do you know when that's coming out, Randy?
Actually, it's a weight loss course. I have made a book on weight loss, and it's going to be a course I'm launching.
Well, I'm excited about that, and I, for one, need that. Today, though, Randy is going to share how a lawsuit and a 1918 farmhouse helped her learn about our magnificent magnetic earth. So take it away, Randy.
Okay, sure. I was, like you said, a lawyer. We were both lawyers, and we were both working, commuting over an hour to Philadelphia, and we just thought this isn't the right lifestyle. And so we decided we would find out what to do. And I had traveled all over the world with my parents, and I knew there were all different kinds of shapes and colors and religions and cuisine. And we really wanted to get to as close to nature as possible to find the basis of human happiness and health. And so that's why I got on this path. And let's see, can I share my screen?
You're the host now.
Okay.
He has changed it.
So when we decided to figure out what lifestyle we wanted, we went to visit my great uncle, who at the time was 87. He actually lived to 100, and his wife was 20 years younger. She lived to 91. Was actually in a car accident in the rain. That she would have been around till past 100 as well. And he was famous for his organic garden. So we got excited about that, and it really ticked us off, because we saw that we were eating the best food that anybody could eat. And we all, my husband and I both got sore stomachs. So we knew whatever we were eating, kind of a typical American diet, post-college kind of thing, wasn't what we needed physically. And of course, Scott and Helen, his wife, were so healthy. So we decided that we needed to make a change. So this was the building I was working in at the time, on the 18th floor, and far off the earth, and everything's paved all through Philadelphia. So this is what we switched to, an old farmhouse. And we spent the next 4 years rebuilding it and had our children there. And then we basically ran out of money. My husband had started a real estate practice, and there was a huge recession, and we had to come back to Philadelphia. But we learned so much when we were there. I wouldn't have exchanged that experience for anything. And there are really three things that I want to share with you all. And the first is the simplicity of life. It was wonderful. We heated with wood, we cooked with wood. We did rewire the house, because it was wiring from 1930. And we minimized the wiring, because we knew we didn't want a whole lot of electricity. We wanted it as new as possible. So we learned that you need good food, good air, good water, be close to nature, and some warmth, because it would go down to -10 or -20 at night, as some of you guys from Canada know. But it was really a simple life, and we loved it. And both of our kids were born there, and they still are very attached to nature. So the simplicity of what you need to be healthy, it's so much about just the purity and quality of your environment. The second thing that we learned was we had friends come up to see what we were doing up there in the country. And we put them to work to help us fix the house up. And they kept saying that they never got tired. They said, if we were doing this work back in the suburbs, we would be so exhausted, but we never got tired. And we didn't realize till later that it was because we were directly exposed to the earth. We had a dirt basement and there was nothing blocking the energy of the earth. And we did a lot of work outside. We split our own logs and laid our own garage and concrete and everything, but we had a dirt basement. So where we were sleeping, we were always in the gentle field of the earth. The third thing is that while we were there, when I was at the law firm, I was just helping big corporations fight each other. I wasn't saving the world. But when we were up there, we decided to help the Indians and the farmers fight an ultra high voltage transmission line that was going across their property. And they wanted to just buy about 150 feet on either side. Well, the court made them, because of this lawsuit, buy 350 feet. And it was because of all the studies and testimonials they saw about the dangers of electromagnetic pollution. And you probably know, if you drive under these kinds of high transmission lines, it can mess up your GPS, you can mess up your radio, and we're getting that energy, and it's pollution, it's electric energy. No living thing on this earth has ever experienced electricity until the last 150 years. So it's a pollutant, it's an energy pollutant. So when we got back to Philadelphia, I was looking for a way to teach natural health and make a living. And that's when I discovered the Nikken company, which is truly a resource for collecting that magnetic energy and putting it back in our environment. So I actually sleep on a magnetic pad. I'm sitting on a magnetic pad. I've got magnetic bracelets. So I wanted to recreate that. And I was so excited that this company in Japan had figured out a way to bring nature to us in suburban buildings, instead of us all moving back to some broken down farmhouse in upstate New York. So you can see why I was really impressed that there was such a thing as a magnetic mattress or magnetic insoles for the shoes to recreate that magnetic field. And let me stop the share, and I just want to say some more things. The magnetic field has been with us forever. And there was just a new study recently published that the magnetic field of the Earth shifts every couple 100,000 years. And what they discovered was that about 45,000 years ago, our magnetic field almost shifted. It got really weak. It was trying to shift, but it didn't. And there were so many things that happened in the biosphere during that period. That's when the Neanderthals disappeared. It's when the ice ages were disrupted. And they've seen other environmental changes when that now that they have all those ice cores and things, they can see exactly what was happening 45,000 years ago. And there's an amazing coincidence of things. There are a whole lot of big mammals disappeared because of climate change. Now the magnetic field didn't totally shift. It went back to where it is now, but it will change again. And another thing that I've discovered is that they're very excited that they found somewhat of a magnetic field on Mars, because they know there's no identifiable life, what we think is life, without a magnetic field, because the magnetic field creates the way that different molecules and cells, even water, polarize themselves. And since we're completely dependent on chemical reactions, we need to be in a magnetic field for things to really match up. If you destroy the magnetic field, everything doesn't really work well. And there's studies, unfortunately, where they put cats and rabbits and mice in lead boxes, and they die. They can't live without the magnetic field. They lose their appetite, they don't hydrate properly, and they eventually die in a matter of days or a couple of weeks. Even if they're trying to feed them, they lose the will to live, basically. It's an awful thing. But their bodies just aren't working right. They don't feel good, so they just let go. And that's not what we want to do as humans. So it's really important to get outside. When I teach parenting, I always say, just send your kids outside. If they get bored or tired or can't focus, put them outside and get them barefoot, or if the weather is still cold, just let them go hug a tree, seriously. And when we were up there working with the Indians, I actually had an Indian midwife, because New York wasn't allowing regular midwives. And she explained that the magnetic field was a way of healing in the ancient traditional Native American lexicon for healing. That if the chants and the herbs didn't work, they would dig a hole in the ground and let Mother Earth heal the person. So her husband was also a healer, and he said when he did a lot of healing touch, when he went outside after a patient, he would cleanse himself by lying down on the earth to reorient his own energy and get rid of the negative energy he had pulled out of his patients. Now, you don't have to believe all of that stuff, although the Indians definitely do. But the magnetic field is absolutely real. And when you use the products that are designed to refresh your body with the natural magnetic field, you can really feel a difference. When I started wearing the magnetic insoles, I just thought I was as healthy as I could get. But when I was late for a meeting, was running across a parking lot, I felt like the bionic woman. I just didn't get tired. And I noticed when I went up and down stairs, my mom was kind of a little hesitant on the stairs, and I thought it was her eyesight. But after 20, I started to be a little shaky on the steps. But when I had those magnetic insoles in my shoes, I could just run right up the steps. And I've climbed a number of cathedral steps overseas now that I have those insoles. So you can feel the difference. And the other thing is you relax. A lot of diseases and dangerous conditions develop because of chronic stress. And chronic stress is just the body's reaction to fatigued muscles and nerves and hormones that are just out of whack. And what the magnetic field does is it makes things work again so that we can respond more quickly to fatigue, so that it doesn't build up into the kind of stress that makes us groggy and foggy and more acidified in our bodies, so that we're more vulnerable to infection and degenerative disease. So the magnetic field is crucial. Get outdoors, take off your shoes, or go hug a tree if you've got to keep wearing your shoes, and check out products that are designed as non-medical products to just put us back in our own little micro environment of magnetism. And animals love it. You know, many of our animals that are indoors all the time, they're getting the same kinds of diseases we have now, because they're not out running around on the ground. And you know, we don't have, the animals don't read the books, they don't watch the demos or the videos. They just know when they feel good. So I always look at what animals do as well. So yeah, that's really what I wanted to share, and I'd love to hear questions or any discussion.
This is not a question, but 20 years ago, there was a lady, and she was in her 80s at that time. And she remembered, she was a Native American. She lived up in the Northwest. I'm guessing Oregon, maybe Washington, but up in the Northwest. And she remembered being a little girl, and the healer of her tribe would go off into the mountains. And she said he knew where to go. And when he came back, he had these big rocks that he would then put on people for healing. And when she saw Nikken for the very first time, and Nikken's been here in the country for 30 years, and so really probably about 28 or 29 years ago, when she first saw a magnetic pad being placed on someone, all of a sudden it hit her. That's what he had gotten. He had gone and gotten magnetite, which is supposedly the rock that Cleopatra wore in some kind of a beautiful thing on her forehead to youthen her and keep her younger.
Right, to keep her younger. And when I told my Indian friends about the magnetic products, they said exactly the same thing. Well, that's the energy that we use when we go into nature. And there's a literature from Plato that the Olympian athletes would go into these special caves before a competition to energize and balance and focus themselves. So it goes back a long, long way. In fact, the first chiropractor used magnets in healing. His chiropractic work on the spine really took off for that profession, but he did use magnetism in his healing practice, Dr. Palmer.
Oh.
So it's been around forever, and going all the way back to the Greeks. And like you said, Cleopatra, that's even before, well, no, it's same similar time as the Greeks and Romans. So yeah, it's funny that we in the 20th, 21st century, we had to rediscover this. But I know in natural health, we kind of only discover things when they're missing. We discovered vitamins when they were missing. We discovered how important pure water is when our streams weren't pure anymore. And we're always playing catch up with nature. So that's why I focus so much on natural parenting and natural eating and natural living.
Maybe some of the people that are on this call have an experience that they would like to share with magnetism. I have one, and I can't tell you why it works, but my sweet husband developed a muscle twitch, and it went off about every 6 seconds all day long. He got it when he was in graduate school. He said he felt like he had been locked in a closet for 3 years and was told to come out with no help 3 years later with his PhD. And it was just so hard for him that he developed this, and it never went away. Well, the only thing they have in Western medicine is muscle relaxants, and that's horrible for driving. And he was the university's top faculty racquetball player, so it's horrible for sports. And so that didn't work. He tried that, and that didn't work. And then we came across the same company, Nikken. And I'm sorry, I don't have any right here, but they had these 2 little rolling balls. And so I rolled. Have you got some?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. You've got the pretty ones. And so
yeah, I won these in Japan.
Oh, so you roll one and the other one rolls. They're magnetic. Yeah. And so I just rubbed his shoulder for probably no more than 90 seconds, maybe 60 seconds. I just rubbed his shoulder. And then we were home during the weekend. So he was someplace where I could watch him for 24 hours. And in 24 hours, I only saw his shoulder fire off 3 times. That's way different than every 6 seconds.
That's awesome. Yes.
And, and again, I don't know why it did that, but it did. And that was pretty cool.
And racquetball is a stress too. And so with the magnetics, that again, like I said, reduces the constant fatigue so that it doesn't reach a point of stress where you get some kind of twitch or nasty thing like that.
Mm. All right.
Our introduction to Nikken was through magnetics. We'd been in a car accident 4.5 years earlier. I was in a cervical collar for 8 weeks. And I had just a headache. But I was prone to those excruciating discomforts where light hurts, sound hurts, everybody's walking on eggs, you don't want the radio on, you become a human pillow sandwich where you're the filling and you got a pillow above and below you. And everything the doctors tried didn't take that headache away. They sent me to every modality under the sun. And that car accident triggered 2 to 4 of those excruciating headaches every week.
Mm.
And some days Wayne would have to take me to the emergency department. Fortunately, I knew all the staff because I'd worked at that hospital. They'd see me coming, they'd usher me into a room with no windows, turn the lights off, close the door. And as soon as they could get to me, they'd give me an injection to stop the violent vomiting. I never got one for the pain because it made me worse. But they would give me something to stop the vomiting. He would take me home, tuck me into bed. Now, we owned and operated a bed and breakfast at the time. So that meant he had the full responsibility of the B&B. Sometimes I'd sleep for 8 hours. Sometimes I'd sleep for a full 24. But we'd been away with friends and had a motel room 2 doors down from them. And we could hear Jim snoring from 2 doors away. And I was sleep deprived because of my husband's snoring, but he didn't just snore. I used to tease him and say that he brought the whole orchestra into the bedroom. He was Bucky Beaver some nights and he was other animals other nights, but it was contributing to sleep deprivation, of course, which exacerbated the situation that I was dealing with. Nancy called me and she said, "I've solved Jim's snoring. Are you interested?" Crazy question. She said, "Come to the library tonight." We went to the library. We were introduced to Nikken. We were given a rollout. We were loaned a sleep system for 3 nights. We get up the next morning and my husband looked at me and he said, "You don't have a headache, do you?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "I don't mean a migraine, honey. You don't have a headache." I said, "No, I don't." He said, "What was I like?" And I said, "Well, quite honestly, you scared the heck out of me." He said, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "We knew nothing about this technology, but we were willing to try it because we trusted Nancy and Jim." I said, "I got up twice through the night. The silence was deafening. And I stuck a mirror under your nose to make sure you were still in the land of the living." We gave it back after 3 nights, and you guessed it, the next day the headache came back and the orchestra came back to the bedroom. It had vacated for 3 days. So we're talking about how could something so simple make such a profound impact immediately? So we're talking about it, and we're in the process at that time of freshening up the B&B, getting ready for the guests to come in the spring again. And I said, I think maybe we should consider taking some of our freshen up money and get one of those sleep systems for ourselves. So we were talking about it when they called and said they were going out of town for a week. I said, "Are you taking that system with you?" "No, do you want to borrow it again?" I said, "Darn right." They brought it back. We slept on it that night, got up the next day, and we both every day suffered with that condition, where you have discomfort radiating down your leg and bending over or lifting is aggravating. Well, we got up the next morning and we both felt like $1 million. And we said, "That's it. We're going to order our own sleep system and hopefully it'll be here before they get back," because we didn't want to go another night without it. And I've been on it every night since.
Wow.
I've had one attack where there's that radiating discomfort down the leg. The day after we moved to our current community, lifting furniture, moving furniture, lifting boxes, but I still got rid of it in less than 24 hours. Those excruciating headaches that I used to experience 2 to 4 times a week, I've had 6 in almost 22 years, all directly related to sudden change in barometric pressure. But I wear 2 necklaces, power band and the magnetic necklace. And if I get one, I can be rid of it in less than 24 hours, just touching the Nikken technologies. I don't even have Advil or Tylenol or any other pain reliever in my home. I don't need them. Nikken does it all with no side effects.
Wow.
So that's my story.
Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah, that's great. I can identify with that moment of checking your husband, because my husband had asthma and he always slept with his mouth open. He only snored occasionally, but I could always hear him breathing. And I thought, how am I supposed to do my yoga breathing before I go to sleep when all I can do is hear his? But then one night I woke up and there was no noise. So I can totally identify with that. And I bent over and watched his chest go up and down. But so often women are the ones that are really more interested in the health of the family and creating the right environment. But so many stories are about husbands who benefit from our experiments.
I had a farmer approach me. I'm a member of the Lions Club, and this was another lion. And he said, "Is there anything that you can do for snoring?" And I said, "What's the problem?" He said, "Well, I'm up at 4 o'clock every morning." And he said, "Sometimes I don't get to sleep until after 2 because Sandy snores." That was his wife. So at that time, I had sleep systems to loan out. And I said, "Well, let's try something. I can't give you any guarantees, but we found it to be effective. And I'll let you loan a sleep system for 2 weeks." So I went to their home, installed the sleep system, and checked with them 48 hours later. And he said, "We're both back in the same bedroom." He said, "I'd moved out. I couldn't handle it." He said, "We're back in the same bedroom and I'm sleeping through the night." Before the second week was up, they'd ordered their own sleep system. And I went and picked ours up and helped install their own system. And he never had a sleep challenge with his wife after that. So
That's really neat. And I counsel families. I was amazed how many couples are in different bedrooms because one or the other snores. So you can bring couples back together, which is just
when we
wonderful.
had our B&B, we had products available for the guests. I mean, they weren't coming to find out about wellness products, but we had a little wee tiny notice on the bottom of their bulletin board. If you have a physical challenge, speak to your host. They may be able to naturally address it.
Wow.
And we had people coming out of the woodwork asking us questions. So they were like our guinea pigs, really, because we were so new in the business. We didn't know what worked and what didn't, what it worked for, what would work maybe for several different things, but we never saw the technologies fail to work. And there were 2 couples in particular that were living in different houses at bedtime. They couldn't stay in the same house.
Wow.
And within 3 months of having been at our B&B, they sold the one house and they were living together again.
Woohoo.
That's
Because of the
wonderful.
sleep system.
Wow. And
Yeah, and the magnetics always work. It's a matter of physics and right down to the molecular level. Dee has
And hydration. Hydration increases the effectiveness if they're properly hydrated.
Yeah, that's what I was going to check with Randy or whoever else, because I know we always say that they work better when we're well hydrated, but could you go into that a little bit further, Randy?
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of studies and science about the way water behaves in the magnetic field. And as you know, it's it's H2O. There's an O and two hydrogen atoms attached to the O. And if in a magnetic field, it's in the proper angle. But if it's not, it can do other things. And so when we're 80% water and our brain is at least 80% water, so all our nerves are dependent on that. So if we want a better response to the natural magnetic field or magnetic technologies in our home, hydration is going to make a huge difference. And if someone doesn't notice anything, I always suggest that they get some of our alkaline pure water, because they may even be drinking bottled water that's acidic or tap water that has chemicals in it. Or if they drink a lot and use a lot of dehydrating foods and coffee and wine and beer, then they may not notice anything when they could notice something if they were hydrated. So that's a really important point.
Great, thank you.
Randy, I have a question.
Here, Marcia, nice to see you.
Hi. My daughter, who actually is the one that introduced me to Nikken 20 some odd years ago, is convinced that she cannot use a sleep system, a comforter, anything that has the magnets in it. She says she gets too jittery, too energized. She uses the power mag when she's hurting. She uses the necklace when she's hurting. Power chip she uses, but she's convinced that she can't sleep on a sleep system. So is that true for some people, or is there something a conversation I need to have with her? I don't know if she'll listen to me, but I just wanted to have, a little advice in terms of that. She drinks the water. She loves the water. But this is one sticking point that we've had.
How long has she ever tried? Because if she's using the magnetics, for acute situations,
Yeah,
chances are she could really benefit by a constant, and she might not have those other incidents. But sometimes you have to go really slowly. And one of the things that we've found over the years is that using just the comforter, the far infrared does a lot of balancing with that can calm the person's balance at the molecular level so that they're more able to sleep in the magnetic field. But it may be something in her own mind, because most of what those products do from Nikken, and one of the reasons I love them, is that they aren't a therapeutic level of magnetism. They're reproducing what we get outside. Does she hike? Does she like to go outdoors?
she was living here for a while, and she'd actually go and lay down on the ground in the backyard. She has multiple chemical sensitivities. She has to really be careful of her environment. But that always was something wonderful, but for some reason the mattress for her, and she has actually, I found finally for her, she had a comforter that was like her lifeline that had no magnets in it. And then it was just shredding. It was, I kept sewing it for her, and it was just finally fell apart. And I finally found her one recently without magnets again, and she's just started using it.
Okay,
So
good.
that is fabulous. But when she, and anytime I suggest, like, you should try the cocoon, you should try this or that, it makes me, she's very psychic. She's very, there's a lot of things about her energetically. So an EMF sensitive,
Well, the heavy metals too. Heavy metals can really influence people's response, and it may be that she needs to detoxify a whole lot more. Does she drink our water?
Oh yeah.
Good. Oh,
Yeah,
you mentioned that.
she has a waterfall. She was living with a water bottle, and she finally set up her waterfall. So yeah, she does use that. She has her various methods of detoxification, but maybe it's not enough. I just
maybe more. I know for me, when I was first slept on the sleep system, the first 3 or 4 nights, I kept waking up. I did feel more wired, but I knew this was good for me. So I thought, well, okay, my body's going through some healing, some adjusting. I know it'll be good. And in fact, with the pillow, I was throwing it on the floor the first 2 nights because, oh, I can't do this. But I knew it was the right thing. So I stuck with it. So by the 4th or 5th day, I was like, yes. And then I swam every morning, and this was in August. So I said to my husband, was there a strange rain last night? Because I'm not getting tired. I could swim all day. And he said, I bet it's the mattress. So it's worth, mattress topper, it's worth going, trying it, even just for naps, or, well, you said she's tried so many of the things. So I would look at long-term, the water hydration, drinking enough of it, and detoxification.
Would the cleanse and detox help her, Randy?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The Nikken detoxification, even the KVB is very helpful detoxifying. If she has mercury fillings, she should get rid of them. I got rid of them in 1981, and it made a big difference.
My husband used to warn people, don't be surprised if the first few nights on the sleep system, you dream of pink elephants or mice with machine guns. It's possible. It's just part of the process of your body getting back in balance.
Technicolor.
Don't be surprised and don't be upset. And
Also,
if you are, call us.
if they smoke or drink alcohol, probably your daughter doesn't do those things,
No,
but that will make them more reactive in a negative way for the first even up to a week or so. But I don't let anybody who smokes get on my pads because it never goes away.
That's true. Well,
unfortunately, I lost all my loners. When I moved after Wayne died and I moved into an apartment, I put them into storage, and they had a leak there and didn't let me know. And I lost 3 kings and 2 queens, a double, and all my demo pads.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I remember one of our big meetings where they asked who would you sell your sleep system for $10,000? And all our hands went up like, no, I want a good night's sleep the rest of my life. And they last so long. The one we have, I don't know, it's at least 10 years old. Yeah, it's worth making sure you're in a magnetic field. And I know we've gone over time, so I don't know if there's more questions.
Thanks, Randy.
No, this is wonderful. And just so that you know, the first week in April, Linda Morris will be our guest, and she's going to be talking about detoxifying the body. So,
Great.
So save some of your questions for then, and she'll give us a wide range of things. Randy, thank you so much. I never know whether to look at the camera or whether to look at the person's picture. Anyway, Randy, thank you so much. That was really, really interesting. Gave us a lot to think about and a lot of information. It just presented so well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. I love talking with everybody and seeing some faces I haven't seen in a while, and some I've seen a lot. So we have a great community with people focused on natural health, helping people, and sharing. It's wonderful.
Well, and thanks to this wonderful community, Ted Aloisio was to be our speaker on alkalinity next week, and he died suddenly. And so some of us are going to get together and we're going to talk about alkalinity anyway next week and honor him. And, and his brother from Canada, Jerry Aloisio, will be on our call also. And then the last week in March, our way to raise energy will be through humor, featuring Bill Lepp, who is a national storyteller. I think he's a minister too. And he is West Virginia's Liar of the Year. Yes, he really, really is. So everyone, please come back and please invite other people to come on with us and learn these ways to raise energy. And meanwhile, say hi to everyone that you pass. So many people now are lowering their heads like they just don't want to even be next to someone. So that's something that we can do individually to raise other people's energy. Have a rest of a good Friday and a good weekend. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Elaine.
And we'll stop the recording.